do you also see a problem of credibility? Because if we're saying that EU observers have said that they will not be able to go to the northeast, but they will deploy observers to as close to the northeast as possible, or the 3 northeastern states affected, because we must remember that there will be 6 states covered by the northeast geopolitical zone, and it's just those 3 specific states. Do you think that it would raise a question of credibility on the elections that will be conducted in those states?
Well, yes, the credibility of elections conducted in those states. Certainly, if there is any security mishap, certainly it will tell on the credibility of the elections conducted in those states. But then we are now talking about 3 states, particularly, and then 3 out of 36, may not be such as to cast so much doubt on the credibility of the entire elections. But all the same, because this is part of Nigeria, we need to really know what the situation is, what the actual situation is. We can even, for instance, and I believe it is possible, to say that these elections in these places could wait. I don't think that constitutionally that will make the entire elections not to satisfy the requirements. But if we are going to do that, then let us know why it is going to be done. Because it is better that we know the situation beforehand than that we go into the elections and then something starts happening.
Well, INEC has spoken up on that. They have said that they're going to conduct elections in some parts, not all parts of the north, beg your pardon, of the 3 affected states.
I agree. I listen to that. But what I am saying now is that we need to get to the details now. This is the time for us to know the details about what INEC intends to do. What are those local governments where they are going to hold elections? What is the percentage of those local governments of the total local governments in the states? And what happens to the other places where elections are not going to hold? When are those elections going to? We need to have...
because taking a cue from Mark, I recall specifically on the 18th of December, Kaido Ido, the spokesperson to Professor Jega, had spoken on that particular matter, saying that elections will hold. Then he did say, well, security is a very, very serious matter, to the extent that in 2015, because he was speaking in 2014, they will assess the situation and see if some of these can be handled or postponed. If you are saying with with what the EU observation team had said, and from the feedback you're getting, because you have also said that the security agencies should give the nation feedback on what situation is in that part of the country, do you think, from the vibe you're getting already, that elections are possible in that part of the country?
Well, it will be difficult for me to give a categorical statement, in the sense that, as I have already said, the facts are not really out.
So we need the agencies to collaborate with INEC on this particular one.
Yes, INEC needs to get to these security agencies, do some on-the-spot assessment of the situation in the next 1 week. I'm saying in the next 1 week because elections are less than 3 weeks away, so that they can give us an exact position on the situation.
From your perspective, how would you assess our preparations for these elections?
Very excellent, especially from the perspective of the electorate itself. You can see that people are very involved in this election. I mean, there is excitement all over the place. What it means is that participation is high, and that voting will be very high. As for INEC, I don't have any reason to doubt their capacity, because they have done it before, and nothing has happened to say that they will not do it again. So I think that the elections are...
What about the gist of the PVC?
The PVCs is neither here nor there. I've listened to some comments, including the unfortunate comment how of outside our shores that the election should be postponed. Very unfortunate, in the sense that participation is not something you force on people. The PVCs could be there, and nobody will go to pick it. Only a few people will go to pick it. In fact, if you do a comparative analysis of Nigerian elections, the number of people who have collected the PVC so far is much more than the number of people who have voted in most other presidential elections. I mean, the total votes we recorded in those votes. And anybody who has not collected the PVC up till now, and the PVC is available, is certainly not an active person in terms of political participation.
But how did you come to that conclusion? Because, I mean, the number of registered voters this year is shorter than that of last year. And the number of permanent voter cards distributed at the moment, I think it's just about maybe half or a little more than half of the number of registered voters this year.
Yes.
So how do you say that voting will be higher or higher?
Yes, certainly. About what is the number? About 58 million or so have collected the PVCs. No. And I'm saying that in previous presidential...
Not 58 million have collected. I don't think it's up to 58. I think it's between 38 and 40 or thereabout. But
okay,
we'll
I think 38, not 58. 38 million, not 58. If you check the number of votes cast in the last election, 2011, I mean at the presidential election, it was less than 30 million. President Jonathan had 22 million or so, and then Major General, he had 24 million, and General Buhari had 12 million or so. You know. In fact, if you check it even up to June 12, you will see that we haven't recorded votes up to the number of PVCs that have been collected. You know. And in any case, you can't really base your analysis of the PVCs or the voting population based on the number of registered voters. Because many of those people registered twice.
No. INEC, the last year,
yes,
the information we have from INEC is that while it was about, if I remember properly, about between 75 and 78 million number of registered voters. But now the figures came down because INEC said they've been able to use the AFIS. And so they've erased all of those who may have registered twice
that are obvious.
From the information we have from them.
The ones that are obvious. Because I tell you, on the ground, I can tell you what is happening on the ground. In many places outside the cities, what the parties do is that they register names of people even from villages, from wards who are not around, and some other people, and then use available children to go and thumbprint on their behalf.
That was when they were using the temporary voter card, or...
You know, it is from the temporary voter card that the PVCs are being produced.
The information we have from
INEC. I get what I'm saying. So that many of these people who are not collecting never even went to register in the first instance. The parties can tell us much more about some of the PVCs that have not been collected. I collected my own a long time ago. And I did it in my ward at home in Enugu State.
Yeah, but you're aware.
And many people have collected.
You're aware that many people have collected, but many other people have not collected.
Well, statistically,
and that's no fault of theirs. You're aware of situations where data was erased in some areas. They had to conduct registration all over again. You had even the Sultan saying all the way in Sokoto that he's not collected his PVC. So you do.
No, there are also those ones. Those. Institutional problems.
Yes.
But they are not something that we're having for the first time. There have been elections in the past that... I'm not saying that those things are normal. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do something to correct these things between now and the elections. As many people as want to vote should be able to, and who are qualified to vote, should be able to vote. But I am saying that there is no reason for us to talk about whether the election should hold or not in terms of the number of PVCs collected, because many Nigerians have collected the PVCs. Many are still going to collect. And
15 million is huge. for
15 million is
for the
huge,
number
but
that
15 million is not statistically it doesn't make 38 million not to be representative.
It does.
It doesn't. Because I am telling you that if you check the figures, and I can say that very authoritatively, we have conducted researches on voter participation in Nigeria. If you check the number of registered voters in previous Nigerian elections and compare it to the number of people that voted in those elections, 15 million as against 38 million is not even much significant.
Are you saying
if that is to be the only people who will not vote?
I think that,
if that
you know,
is not, I mean, yes.
Mr. Onah, this might work if we're looking at a situation where, you know, this 38 million has a spread. But if this 15 million is about an area of people who are disenfranchised, then it will be a matter for the courts, because they would say that, you know, these elections could have been in my favor when the results finally come out, if only this other group of people who are my supporters, or which was my stronghold, was able to vote. So this could actually create problems in the future, if you look at, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
I agree. I have said already that we have problems. It's not as if we don't have problems, but I have been talking about, you know, problems not being the first of their these problems.
The point I'm trying to make is that this could actually render the elections invalid.
I'm still coming to that. You know, to start with, we must establish the fact that these problems are not the first of its kind in Nigerian elections. Number two, I'm sure that there could be a few areas that are affected in a very concentrated manner, as you have put it. And I think that INEC should be able to identify those places and do something about it, because INEC has said they will be distributing these things till the day to the first election. And that is still, if you remember that in some, I think at a point they were distributing these things within 3 days, and so many people collected. And we are now talking about distributing it even from now. You know, I mean, if you count from now, it's almost 3 weeks. I think that so much, you know, can be done within that period. So that in these instances where, you know, some case could be made for deliberate disenfranchisement, I mean, INEC should be able to do something about it. But I think that with what we have now, and with what we are going to have between now and February 13th, I think we should give INEC the benefit of the doubt.